Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game that's got a lot going for it, from its massive open world to its unbelievable visual fidelity to its obsessive attention to detail. But, without a doubt, the game's biggest strength is its stellar story and its memorable cast of excellently written and incredibly acted characters. Soon, Rockstar's open-world epic launches on PC, followed shortly after by its Stadia launch in November. And leading up to that PC launch, we'll be doing a series of features where we look at its main characters. And while the characters one immediately thinks of when thinking of Red Dead are the two protagonists, John Marston and Arthur Morgan, another character who's equally as important and prevalent across the two games, perhaps even more so in fact, is Dutch van der Linde. Beginning life in the first game as a charismatic and formidable foe, and then getting more complexity and depth than any of us could ever have imagined in Red Dead Redemption 2, Dutch is one of the best, most intricate, and most compelling characters Rockstar has ever created. While in the first game, he seemed like a guy who had a strong code and a cemented view with which he saw the world, or wanted to see the world at any rate. Red Dead Redemption 2 revealed him to be a conflicted man who was perhaps using those viewpoints as a shield to justify his actions. Red Dead 1 portrayed him as a man who was, at least in his own mind, fighting the fight against the opulence and corruption of the establishment as he sought to establish a new and more equal world order. But that side of him was given a lot more depth in the sequel. Does that mean Dutch did not believe in those things? No, he very well might have. But Red Dead Redemption 2 also gave us the impression that he was, perhaps, not as invested in changing things as he was in using those viewpoints as a way to continue to be an outlaw. Certainly his actions in Red Dead Redemption 2 suggested some level of hypocrisy. In Red Dead Redemption 1, we saw Dutch leading a gang of young Native Americans, and the sequel gave us an interesting look at how the seed was planted for that, with Dutch using their anger and their poor circumstances to his own advantage, something that he had taken to real extremes by the time Red Dead 1 started. Many might argue that was what he did with the members of his gang as well, that he was brainwashing these people under his wing to build a troop of people loyal to himself. That certainly puts a much more negative light on his actions than what the games portrayed, Red Dead 2 especially, but by the end, in many ways that was what he was doing. He did not care how many of his allies died. He did not care how obvious it became that his plans, of which he had quite a few, were leading them to the brink of absolute chaos. There was always one more bank, one more train, one more score. And the fact that he remained in pursuit of those things even as the people who had been following him for years started to grow disillusioned and began to lose faith in him tells us how far gone he was by that point. Micah's not-so-subtle prodding and probing did nothing to help either. But there are certainly things to like about Dutch as well. That's what makes him such a compelling antagonist, that he isn't pure evil. To both Arthur and John, Dutch was a father figure. He was in fact a father figure to many, and in the opening hours of Red Dead Redemption 2, it was clear that he genuinely cares about all the people under his protection, and that he actually looks at them as if they were his family. Sure, all of that went to shit when Dutch cracked under pressure from the Pinkertons and was misled and betrayed by Micah, but at least when things weren't rough, or as rough at any rate, there was a real sense of loyalty and togetherness in the van der Linde gang, and it all came from Dutch. Benjamin Byron Davis also deserves a lot of credit for the way that he portrayed Dutch, giving a convincing performance that sold all facets of the man's personality perfectly, from his warmth and charm to his charisma and humor, to his descent into becoming the antagonist we knew him as in Red Dead Redemption 1, to, of course, his portrayal as that antagonist. Rockstar has always had a knack for identifying excellent acting talent for its major characters, and Davis absolutely knocked it out of the park with his portrayal of Dutch. And certainly, there's still a lot about Dutch that we don't yet know, a lot that we haven't seen. Red Dead Redemption 2 hinted at some very interesting things in his past without ever going into too much detail. The days of his youth with Hosea by his side, the early conflicts with Colm O'Driscoll and his lackeys, and of course, everything to do with Dutch's lover, Annabelle. Certainly, there are many stories from Dutch's past that haven't yet been told. So, is it possible that Rockstar will someday tell those stories? When it comes to a third Red Dead Redemption game, it seems that Rockstar has two choices. Either they can move forward and tell the story of Jack Marston, or they can move further back and explore the past of all of these excellent characters that they've created. And there's certainly no shortage of people who would love to see another prequel, this time focusing on the past of Dutch, his first meetings with Hosea, Arthur, and the other members of the gang, and how he got to where he was in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's going to be many years before those questions are answered, but either way, one thing is undeniable. Rockstar deserves all the praise in the world for the way it has written, portrayed, and developed Dutch van der Linde over the course of 2 games. Rather than delivering an all-black, pure evil villain, they made a character with complexity, with layers, a character that you might, at certain points, even like. And that is the reason Dutch is perhaps one of the most compelling and interesting characters we've ever seen in a game. There's no shortage of those in Red Dead Redemption 2, of course, but we'll get to the others soon enough. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.